welcome to the Leading with Love podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Arthurs. The purpose of this podcast is to touch your heart, expand your soul, and help us all be everything we came here to be. We have interviews with amazing humans and solo episodes as well, all made to bring more love, more joy, and wisdom into your day. It's a growing list, so check back often and let's dive right in. Hey, hi guys, welcome back. It's an interview day today, and I say that whenever I have someone on because it's different than the solo podcast, and I have the most beautiful, amazing soul for a guest, and she is going to talk about physicality, about our bodies and how we live in our bodies. But because this is the Leading with Love podcast, of course, it's about more than that. And she is such a beautiful embodiment, quite literally in every use of that word, of leading with love and of bringing so much more to understanding our physicality and living. It starts about pain-free, but it's so much more than that. So her name is Cortney Dreifelds, and she's very dear to me, and you're going to love her. She's the founder of Balanced Body, and she's so passionate about what she does and so brilliant. I'm really looking forward to this one. So let me not wait any further, and I'll welcome in Ms. Cortney Dreifelds.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro. That was, especially coming from you, that's really incredible. Thank you.
I'm so glad we could do this. I really appreciate your time. I know that you are a busy mom, a busy entrepreneur. You've got a lot going on. And for you to invest the time to come here and speak with me and with all the people who are going to watch this and listen to it, it's just another way that you're bringing your gift into the world. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I know that you do a lot of coaching with your company, Peak Performance Coaching, but Balanced Body is your baby and your heart and soul. And I do have questions for you, but why don't you go ahead and tell everyone because I know it's evolving as well as you evolve. So what is this about for you right now? How are you helping your clients overall with Balanced Body?
Yeah, it's definitely evolving just like we all evolve. And I love it that you said that. Balanced Body is all about helping people play pain-free. I feel like whether it's our business or, the sports that we love to play or, just being a mom is, when we can play full out and do the things we actually enjoy and we don't have those, emotional and physical constraints holding us back, we can be like that best version of ourselves and really light up the people around us.
You just said so many things in just that one intro sentence. So play, huge, especially because you're an entrepreneur and you know what it means to work hard. You know what it means to, potentially run yourself ragged when you're wearing a lot of hats as a business owner and a coach and a parent, to bring play into it. Even that sense of play into your life is so important and beautiful. And I know that you do that. You live that, right? I've seen you go skiing. I've seen you do all these beautiful things. How do you bring play into your life?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. I feel like, traditionally I always, like to do things by the book. And, what I had been experiencing in the past few years is just letting go of these constraints and these titles of, what we're supposed to do and what holds us back. Because in the end of the things that we think we should do, it ends up being sickness and tension in the body. And that tension of not living our life by design in the way that we create it ends up being, pain and sickness and in the end, toxicity. Yeah. So the way that I didn't answer your question.
No,
So the way
you
that
said so many beautiful things. Go ahead.
yeah. So, there was this experience I had when I was in Hawaii and I was trying to get surfing. I was trying to learn how to surf, just trying to get it right. And, it's like golfing. The more you try, the worse it gets. And then I had this experience of like coming back with the surfboard and just being okay with not getting it and putting the surfboard aside, playing in the waves. And it was one of these most exhilarating experiences where I just felt like I let go of my body. I let go of who I was. I let go that I'm a 41-year-old mom, like trying to do all these things and be all these things. And I just had so much fun. And the most important part about that is that when I'm able to have fun with myself, I show up as a remarkably different wife. I show up as such a different mom. And I
Wow.
show up differently in my business where I can actually understand when people feel like they have hit a wall and they don't know how to turn and, feel really constrained and restricted to just like go and having that liberation and freedom.
Woo, liberation. That is such a beautiful word. And that is what you're doing. And as you said, you now know when you've used these words a few times, like constriction, and this is what you see in your clients, right? And for you to have felt that in yourself, that perfectionism and that frustration. I have felt that too, surfing in Hawaii. It's a beautiful place to learn that lesson, to surrender to the
Mhm,
beauty and the waves and the fun and the play, because surfing can be frustrating when you're learning, just like golf. You're right. It's just like arg,
mhm,
not when you're not getting it and you're not, yeah, that surrender. And now, wow, I know I'm talking a lot, but I got so much from what you said. I'm just, I'm integrating all of that because I know that sense of surrender, and I can see how you would be bringing that to your clients.
mhm,
See, embodiment. You're embodying what you know, and that's what you're bringing to your people, and that's amazing. Um,
mhm,
okay. So, pain. You know that you see every day in your practice that people are living in pain physically, and that
mhm,
it's actually a messenger. It's trying
mhm,
to show you
mhm,
something, right? So tell us about that.
mhm. So most of the time when I talk to people about pain, it's all about the mechanics and the body's just not working and I've got a bad elbow or I've got a bad knee. And it's all about critiquing and judging our body. But, I love that you said it teaches us something. And if we're open to learning those lessons of what we are meant to learn along this journey, then we get so much more out of this beautiful life. And if we're resisting it and we're pushing it away, we keep being in pain and sick and tired. And the reason why I study this and practice it is because it's not easy. It's not easy to not be in pain. It's not easy to be, resigned and tired and
It's
irritable.
exhausting in every sense of the word. And when
Yeah.
you're in pain, it
And,
kind of takes over everything else, right? It makes it acute. It's like it ruins
mhm.
all the other things that could be bringing you joy.
Yeah. And the way that I started in this profession was because, in my 20s, I started having a tremendous amount of pain when I was playing sports. I remember how embarrassed I was when I was, cycling with my wife, and I literally couldn't pedal with both feet on the wheel. I pedaled with one foot, and she had to race ahead to get the Jeep to come and pick me up. I remember when I was running and I couldn't make it all the way home because of hip pain. It's I was obsessed with this because I couldn't wrap my head around all the therapies that I had been involved in, that
Right.
I still couldn't do the things I wanted to do.
Ooh,
I
so it's
had
like
so much
I'm the expert
pain.
in this and I can't remedy my own pain.
Well, it was even before I had gotten into this field. I was a
Okay.
recreation therapist. So
Okay.
I was dealing with so many sports injuries, and just like everybody else, pushed past it and did therapy, focused on the knee pain, focused on the hip pain, and, got a tiny bit better. But I was like, there's got to be a reason why one side is bugging me and not the other side. And,
Yes.
and the deeper that we dig is the more that I saw from, my childhood of, just looking at the rolls in my tummy and being like, you said, even as a kid, like, how can I get rid of this roll? And it's so sad to see that,
Like
like,
rolls in
this
your
is this
tummy,
is
like, oh my
yeah, like
goodness.
rolls in my tummy as a kid. And it's so sad to see that, like, as children, we're faced with these body image issues of like hating and loathing our body. And
Definitely. You
whether
just
we're
reminded me. Wow, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like whether we're 13 years old or a 50-year-old woman, it's those constraints that we see in our body and that judgment that we see on our body holds us back to stepping into our voice and hold back from having the courage to do the things that we really believe in and express our gifts to the world in such a unique, powerful
Yes.
way.
Exactly. I say that all the time. I love that. I love so much that we say the same things in different words because it's going to reach people's hearts in different ways. And
Yeah.
it still comes down to giving your gifts in this world because the world needs
Yeah.
that. It needs us to give our gifts. It is time to do what we came here to
Mhm.
do. Like literally on this planet,
Mhm.
we need people stepping into their gifts and giving it their all. And when they don't love
Yeah.
themselves and they don't, they're busy judging what is on the outside, they're not even in their hearts enough
Mhm.
to know what those gifts are and truly, truly step into them,
Oh, yeah.
especially if
Yeah,
they're in
when
pain.
Yeah, we are a mirror reflection of everything we see. And my proof of that is it's from our perspective. I have these disagreements with Susanna once in a while, and she says, "Oh, that's your story." And I said, "Of course it is. It's my perspective. That's the only way I can come from is from my story, my point of view." And
True.
so the thing is if we feel like we look in the mirror and we feel like we're, looking at wrinkles or we're not feeling like fit enough or lean enough and we're critiquing and judging our bodies. The thing is that comes out in the judgment and the critique that we have to not only our spouse, not only our colleagues and people who we're in business with, but it also comes out with our children,
Imagine, I
and
know,
that
putting judgment
judgment.
into children.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's painful realization that
Yeah,
we could be doing that to our
yeah,
kids, right? Wow.
yeah, yeah.
You said something that really reminded me of something when I was a kid, a little girl, I don't know, maybe somewhere 8, 10-ish. And I was reading these books. They were
Mhm.
popular back when I was a kid. It was like Flowers in the Attic and all these kind of weird books, but they were about these. There was one that mentioned this girl that was so bizarre. It was, I mean, she was doesn't even she was kidnapped and she was stuck up in this attic or something. But one of the things that I remember to this day that stuck with me, but it talked about how her beautiful flat stomach, and she was so proud of it, and her captor noticed
Mm.
it, and she was like 12, and I was probably
Wow.
9 or 10, and I remember, oh, that's what you're
Mhm.
supposed to be proud of. That's what you're supposed to be
Yeah.
like what?
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
before really a lot of this social media. I see it in my daughter where when she was in high school,
Mhm.
she, I mean, it doesn't shut off, right? It was like when we went to
Mhm.
school, we could go home and recover if somebody was teasing us or we weren't feeling good about ourselves. But now it's like
Mhm.
24/7. The kids come home and they're on Instagram and they're on Facebook and they're that judgment and that comparison
Mhm.
never gives them a
Mhm.
break.
Yeah, yeah. And it's easy to see in media and it's easy to see in the, external world and all the issues that there are with social media. And I get caught up with this, but in the end, it's all about who we are and how we're making a change in the social media platform. It's about
Yeah.
showing up unpolished and it's about showing up and having a voice.
Yes, you guys, you and Susanna both, and for those of you listening, Courtney's wife Susanna, she's on another episode, and you guys are both spectacular and so live that, right? And I do the same in terms of using social media for good, using it for connection, using it for
Mhm.
your voice, using it to remind people who they really are
Mhm.
inside.
Yeah.
Cause
Mhm.
yeah, I do the same. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, but I don't I see nothing but love now. Like I don't even care what I
Yeah.
look like. I might put on a little makeup for this just to, look decent for the camera, but I really don't care.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
I love you and you're amazing. And I don't even really see what you look like. I'm just like, oh, Courtney, she's awesome. That spirit speaks so much more
Yeah.
loudly to me. And I think that's possible for everyone as we connect more
Yeah.
authentically
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
worry less
And
about
I
what we
think
look like.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, it's easier said than done, that sometimes when we're, having that face down moment, we're, in our closet, kind of crying our eyes out, not knowing what to wear for this important occasion or event, it
Hmm.
doesn't feel so easy as like, I just gotta love myself.
Yeah.
And so it does take getting deep and, pulling out those like horrible fears and insecurities and judgments we have about ourselves, and pulling out the pain so that we
Yes.
can deal with it head on and start to like climb that vibration ladder,
Yeah.
and it
Woo! What a
doesn't.
beautiful thing to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the other day I was having a conversation with Susanna, and it was like, and we all have those days where we just feel really down, really low. And then when we were talking, she started to get like frustrated and angry. But the thing is it we don't have to go from this like low state to just feeling wonderful and fabulous. We can climb that vibration ladder from feeling like totally depressed to being angry
Yeah, it's too
to
much of a
being
gap, right?
accepting to
It's a
yeah,
process. It's not like, "Oh, I feel awful
yeah,
and yay, joy." It can work that way, but it doesn't. We're in a physical world and we have to deal with what's
yeah,
here. And we should be dealing with
yeah,
what's here, right? It's again, emotional pain
yeah,
is the same. It's a messenger.
mhm,
It's showing you something.
yeah,
It's trying to tell you something, usually over and over and over. And I'm not saying that I look in the
yeah,
mirror now and feel just love like it just happened. It was definitely a
mhm,
process, and it took me years to get to this point where
mhm,
that love just shines through, and I don't have that little voice in my head that says, "Oh, yeah, you've got wrinkles and you've got rolls on your belly and whatever it is, the same things that we all would have said
mhm,
to ourselves." And I love that. Sue said that too, that climbing the emotional ladder or the frequency
mhm,
ladder. Yeah, that's an
mhm.
awesome, awesome visual for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, when I've been really stuck and really low before, I have this illusion that I just have to snap out of it. But
Mm,
sometimes I recognize just literally a body movement has me show up a different way. When we're feeling really low, we usually are kind of in a slumped over
yes.
position. We have our head tucked down, and just even practicing that and being, hands across your chest and down, is we feel remarkably different. And Amy Cuddy had this study, and it had people just practice this movement for 2 minutes and then have this movement for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and people's self-efficacy actually changed. And so it
So
reminds me of
fabulous.
like, yeah, and just, when we get ready for like a podcast or an interview, or like a really special meeting with somebody, usually what we do as women is we want to study and we want to know more, and it's a lot on a conscious cerebral level where we got to tick all the boxes and get everything right, you know but when we are standing in our own power of who we really are and feeling proud of ourselves and moving our body in a way that serves us, then we can be who we really are without constraint.
Woohoo! Yes.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Exactly. And I think we've talked about this before I pressed record, about how it's very easy to fall into that perfectionism trap, and want to look
Mhm,
perfect and say all the right things. But so what? Like, if your son happens to, I mean, I know he's
mhm.
not home right now, but oh my gosh, guys, they have this beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing, incredible spirit little sprite, Ethan. And I just love him so much. I'm so glad I got to see him and meet him. Um,
Yeah.
but so what if he comes running across? I mean, I know again he's not home, but what if he did, or what if he needed you, or that's just life. And there's no such thing as perfection. There's just, are you present or
Mhm,
not?
mhm.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
at its
and it's so
simplest.
funny that yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because right in the meantime, I have, my dog is just like going crazy in the
Oh,
background,
I can hear
like
something.
playtime. Okay.
Aw, does he
And
have
I'm
to wait?
thinking, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. He's just playing. And I think that, it's funny because we look to see how, our kids or our spouse or our dog is a reflection of ourselves. We
Yeah.
have these like hang-ups all the time. It's really easy to get to that place of being distracted and but you got it, is when we are present with ourselves, we can be fully present with the other people around us.
Yeah, and it's funny because dogs are the perfect example of play and presence.
Mhm. Yeah.
They really do embody those two things, and they're so brilliant at reminding us into this moment. Do you need to I can pause if you
Yeah,
need to and if you wanna go let him out or something. Are you okay?
that would be amazing. Just two
Yeah,
seconds. I'll
okay.
just open.
Okay, we're back. Let the doggy out so the dog can go play and we can carry on. Um, I'm reminded of something you posted just today in preparation for this interview. You asked this question of your audience, and by the way, um, they have, for those of you watching and listening, a beautiful Facebook group. Um, Actually, before I get into my point, I want to talk about that because your Facebook group is brilliant, and because it's the two of you coming in, this is for you and I today, but just as a point of reference, you both bring different gifts into it, and you both bring your whole heart and soul to the people in your group. And it's a beautiful place to receive support for any goals you might have, any fears you might be facing. In your case, for the people, any pain that you might be in, whether it's emotional or physical, and they are related for sure,
Mhm,
for sure.
mhm,
You guys bring such a beautiful support system and structure to your group, and you're constantly bringing in insights. And the way that you do that is you live them, and you're not
yeah.
just doing lip service to, like, you literally actively lean into your challenges. I know you do because I've seen it over and over and over.
Mhm, mhm,
And then you bring that wisdom to your group. And so I just wanted
mhm.
to mention that because if anyone's looking for support, and we all need support, right? And connection and
Yeah.
community, and a place where you can actually go for your dreams and overcome, but not with force,
Mhm,
with intention and presence and healing
mhm.
the things that are stopping you. This would be a beautiful group to join. What's the name of the group again?
It's called Peak Performance Tribe.
Exactly. Tribe.
Yeah,
Beautiful. So
yeah,
for anyone listening and
yeah.
watching, that would be, I mean, a beautiful place to tap into for all this wisdom. And yeah, it's just an invitation that I thought I would throw out there. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, I love that. The one thing that really stood out, what you said, is intention. And I find so often it's really easy to go through our day to day and our tasks and not have an intention behind it. And when we set an intention of, who we want to be, what is our next step, what are we creating, what are we causing today, then the
Mm.
result is astronomical. The result is literally a miracle because you pull
Yeah.
towards you that similar vibration of joy. You pull towards you that, creative expression or, self respect. And you pull towards you other people that are in this vibration where they choose to respect their bodies or they choose to live their life without abandonment. And what I think is so important is to to live, through an example. And I love this book, Present Over Perfection, because so
Ooh.
often it's really easy to just try and keep getting things perfect, 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 or not putting yourself out there until it's all perfect. And we can't really be that service for others
Mm.
if we're holding back, waiting until it's perfect, because there's this certain um, point in between of when we're a total mess, in pain, sick, depressed, whatever it is, feeling like shit about ourselves. And then this other point of light. And, when we can catch ourselves right in the middle and
Mm.
we're at that tipping point between the two, and we can like understand and really be accepting of the people who are in their shadow, and then actually recognize where our gifts truly are.
God, you said so much. I'm just trying to catch it all. It's so beautiful. I can't wait to actually watch and listen to this again, because you're just giving gift after gift, little gem after gem after gem. And it's going to be so valuable for people watching. And just as a side note, you can see the sun shining in. I hope it's going to be okay. But I mean, what's wrong with the sun shining in, right? Um, but it's a perfect theme of not being perfect and being present instead. How perfect that you're reading a book right
Mhm.
now. I didn't even know that, called Presence Over Perfection, or like whatever you said it was called. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't read that book, but that's
yeah.
exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm,
It's just being present to what's here, whether it's our emotional pain
mhm,
or our physical pain or our spouse or our children or our, whoever's around us, what's
mhm,
showing up. If you're not present and you're just, I feel like perfection is not authentic. I mean, there's no such thing as perfection, but if you're putting, I'll use this
mhm,
podcast as an example. So I didn't know how to do
mhm,
a podcast. People kept saying, you should have a podcast. And
mhm.
so something said, okay, enough people said do it, that it just felt like it was calling me forth, but I didn't know how to do it. I actually have never watched a podcast, and so I had this need to try and make it perfect. I wanted this background and I wanted this intro, and I didn't start for
Mhm,
weeks because I was trying to get it all perfect. And then I just
mhm.
thought, what, that's my heart wants to talk to people. I want to talk
Yeah.
to people. I want to have a conversation with you that
Mhm,
is so beautiful, and you're showing up with so much heart that whoever gets to, like, this gets to go wherever it wants to go and touch whoever it's made to impact.
mhm,
And it's not up to me. And if I'm trying to make it perfect, then I'm not being authentic. And you're right, I'm not taking action and doing the thing. So I
mhm.
just did the thing. And
Yeah.
it's not perfect, like it just isn't,
Yeah,
I don't have,
yeah,
I'm in a hotel room, as you can see, and I just had to bring my equipment and set it up and let it work out however it needs to, and let the sun blind me if it needs to, and your dog gets to come
yeah.
in and be let out, and it's like there's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
unattainable
and but
goal.
yeah, and there's also this idea of, like, when you show up the unique version of yourself, it's being that perfection within yourself, like, being that best version of yourself that really makes a difference, and
Mm.
when I was working in the rehab world, I found more and more, when people were working longer days, when they had more stress, when they had a falling out with a family member, is that they would have more pain. And I started to see the body less and less as like our physical body, and more as this holistic approach of we are so much more than just what we see.
Yeah.
Everything that we feel echoes through the body.
Hmm.
Everything that we think about ourselves and others shows up in our cells, in our body, and it's being shown through science. It's fascinating.
It is so incredible. That's why I
Yeah.
wanted to have you on and talk to you, because we're so much more than just this body. It's this incredible experiential vehicle, which, through our
Mhm,
senses brings us information, and we can navigate the world, but also it's the outcropping of
mhm,
us, of our consciousness and our thoughts and
mhm,
our beliefs. And yeah, exactly what you just said.
mhm.
That it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was like perfectly
Yeah,
described. That, yeah, and it's
yeah,
constantly talking to us. It's like it's a
yeah,
feedback loop, right? We're talking to it, and it's an
mhm,
outcropping of us, and then it's
mhm.
giving us back information about the world,
Yeah.
about how it's feeling, about how it's functioning or not functioning. And it holds so much
Mhm,
for us. It holds pain,
mhm,
it holds beliefs,
mhm,
it holds things from when we
mhm,
were little, until and unless we release those things, as you said, already touched
mhm,
upon. It's
mhm.
complex.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
yeah.
What an
Yeah, I
adventure.
really want yeah, and I wanted to touch on that feedback loop. It's so
Okay.
powerful. When we have pain in our body, we start to focus so much on that pain. My mom just had a knee replacement surgery, and like the only thing she can focus on is the physical pain in her
Oh,
knee.
yeah.
But when we did a visualization, it took her to this different place outside of her body where she's able to feel what it was like to be roller skating when she was 16, and we got off the call, and after an hour, she says, I literally have no physical pain, and it's so
Beautiful.
interesting is like when we focus on the pain and we get more of it, it's like this
Mm.
constant feedback loop. And, most of the time, I'm saying 99.9% of the time, whenever I've seen somebody with pain, is I never work on the site of pain. It's
Right.
just that's the part that needs to be respected and treated
Oh.
nicely
It's a
and protected.
symptom. Yeah, so you're
Yeah,
just like isolate this, let's be gentle with that and let's go over here,
mhm,
and you're like coming at it sideways and they may not even realize it,
yeah,
right? Dealing with whatever
yeah,
the thought patterns are. I'm reading into what you're
yeah,
saying, so to correct me if I'm wrong,
mhm,
but the thought patterns
yeah,
or what they're focusing on, like you said, what you focus on expands. I mean, we know
yeah,
this. And it's hard when you're
yeah,
in pain physically
mhm,
or emotionally, but
mhm,
it's hard not to go there because it's acute,
yeah, mhm,
right? It's
mhm.
like when you have a toothache, it's hard to even concentrate on anything else. But
Oh, absolutely.
that is also a choice. It doesn't feel like it, but it is.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah,
with your mom, that's a beautiful example where you took her.
yeah,
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just should not be beeping. Are you still there? Okay, perfect.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
me just get that back. So, yeah, I
mhm,
was just thinking about your mom, and because our minds are powerful tools, right? And I say this a lot,
mhm,
we let them run the show, but they're not meant to be the master. They're meant to be the tool. We are the masters. Our
mhm,
consciousness, our presence
mhm,
is the master. And so when we use that instead and choose to take it to reminding ourselves what it was like when we were roller skating when we were 16, like it
yeah,
is a tool, and it's like they say monkey mind, right? It actually will take whatever question you ask it, and you know this,
mhm,
or task
mhm,
you give it, and it will go down that path, right? So if you give it a
mhm,
visualization, it's going to dive into that because we have the power of
yeah,
imagination, and it's going to
yeah.
expand that, and then you have all those feelings
I
and that joy.
Yeah.
Go.
I love what you're saying. Tony Robbins has this thing of, ask yourself a stupid question, you get a stupid answer. Like, you wake up in the morning, why am I so tired? And then you subconsciously start to answer all the reasons why you might be tired. I woke up in the middle of the night with my kid. I went to bed too late at night. I had too many glasses of wine, like all these reasons that justify
Yeah.
us being tired. So we naturally start to feel more and more tired. By the time 2 o'clock comes along, we've rehearsed in our head for hours in the day why we're so tired. And so we start to have that dip around 2, 3 o'clock, and
Yeah.
it's like what we focus on is what we get. If you focus on the pain, we're going to get more of it. But whether I'm speaking mechanically about the physical body, if we have knee pain, it's usually the hip and the foot that I'm working with, or the other
Mm,
side,
right.
that helps to alleviate
Balance it
it
out.
because there's some reason for the misalignment around the knee. If we're looking at, any type of back pain, sometimes it stems from a lot of other emotional issues that are
Yes.
that are underneath it. And but I think the more that we can have that escape, even if it's temporary from the pain, is the
Mm.
more that we can get ourselves back and we can come from a heart-centered place and start expressing our true gifts. And this is what I really see you doing is, constantly coming from the heart. That's really
Always.
incredible.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my things in this world is how people get out of their mind, out of their head, and into their heart. Because our
Mhm.
heads tell us
Yeah.
stories and they're not true, and they project into the future and regret the past. And it's like, it's not, none of it is true. Your truth is here. Your truth is here and
Mm.
now. And pain for sure distracts us from that. You said so many beautiful things, and you reminded me twice now of Tony Robbins. Um, because I learned a lot from him. I've had many mentors, as I'm sure you have as well. When you're in personal development, and there's a lot of material for us to learn from, and then it ends up
Mm.
opening up, I say this a lot too, into a spiritual journey often, because you start getting to know
Mhm.
yourself and then you take that even further, right? But Tony talks about
Mhm.
state, right? About how, I mean, I learned that from him a long time ago, how it's true. You can just see it when someone, yay, see, he agrees. Do you need to do something? Do you want me to
No,
pause?
Susanna's got him.
She's got
It's
it.
totally fine. Thank you, though.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, the state that you're in, it shows itself physiologically, and I love how he talks about you can control that instead of letting your depression, like you're actually, you know, when you're just kind of like this, you can change your state and it changes how you
Hmm.
feel. It works both
Yeah.
ways, right? When you feel
Yeah.
amazing, you're just like, oh, look how beautiful the sun is. But you can also
Yeah.
change your physiology intentionally, and it picks up
Hmm.
how you feel. We have so much
Hmm.
power. We have
And I think the
so much
misillusion is,
choice.
yeah, we do. And, the misillusion is that we don't feel like it. We don't feel like, jumping into a cold shower to wake ourselves up and have that state change. We don't
Yeah.
feel like, my thing is to do downward dogs or like pike to plank. And I go pretty
Ah,
fast or do a headstand or a handstand and leaning against the wall because it's that state change of being in this position to like upside
yes.
down that sends a bunch of like firing of neurochemicals and hormones that
Yes.
literally has me feel differently. So
Yes.
we don't want to do those things. Susanna
Of
has this thing of
course.
like
Good
when
point.
I'm on it about something and like tense or frustrated and annoyed or just feeling depressed and down, she's like, okay, let's dance it out. And she puts on music and says, let's dance it out. And I'm like, no, I'm not dancing. And so, but she like really grabs my arms and starts moving me around.
Aw.
And we like the thing is we don't want to have that state change because of the mindset that we're in. And it takes that 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 patience of just
Mm.
allowing your body to move and trusting that the mind is going to change or vice versa. To have the courage to just do something that
Do
you
it
don't really want
anyway?
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
knowing that it's gonna make a
beautiful.
massive difference. Yeah.
Something physical, right? Something physical. So, yeah, when you're
Mhm.
upside down, you're running blood to your brain, you're changing your state, you're changing your physiology, and your body can't. People don't talk about that as much, where you actually are changing the hormones that are rushing through your blood and the
Mhm.
neuropeptides, as you said, and you're firing in different ways. You're forcing
Mhm.
the change, but it's actually
Mhm.
something that's good for you. And it's really not you that doesn't
Mhm.
want it. The real you is
Mhm.
pure joy and loves dancing, that real
Yeah.
spirit in you, right? It's the pattern that's running
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
powerful, and the grooves in your
Yeah.
brain, it doesn't want change. It's comfort. It's not comfortable, but it's comfort
Mhm.
because it's how you're feeling right now, so it doesn't want to open up and
Yeah.
change. And the same is true with pain. It's like you see people in pain and they're that same kind of crunched in,
Mhm. Mhm.
energy, instead of like, when you feel good, this is how your physiology is, right?
Yeah, as the light is just beaming on you.
It's
It's
I'm looking
perfect,
at you, but
yeah. Yeah.
the sun.
Yeah. It's so true. It's all about like those tiny, tiny little habits, like those 1 minute habits that we can do to really state change. I mean, whether we're in pain or whether we're feeling sick or depressed. I mean, with my mom, the first thing that we did when she had knee replacement surgery was this. And she says, "Well,
Ah,
why am I doing this? I haven't had anything wrong with my shoulders." But the point is that if you can move your arms, it physically starts to challenge your core. You start to breathe differently. When you breathe differently, you feel different. Most of the time when we're stressed and we have high cortisol levels and we're feeling anxious, that we just close up. We stop breathing. And then it really gets in our head. If you can just reach your arms up, pull them back down, start lifting up your chest, proud chest. It has you show up in a different way. The other thing that I used to do when I was working in a clinic, because I couldn't, jump in a cold shower, is when I was left feeling an uncomfortable vibration with one of my clients who had left. I
mm.
had just washed my hands at the end in cold water, like cold, cold water. And it has a way of like shocking your system. And what I always thought was fascinating with like ice cold plunges is I knew about the release of endorphins and the release of dopamine and serotonin, like all that feel good stuff. But what I didn't know is that when your body is physically in pain, that after, when you release the pain, that's when you start to have the release of dopamine and serotonin.
Mm.
You start to actually
Rushing
feel
into your
better.
through your body.
So sometimes when you have that physical pain, and you can ride it out to a point where you can just get out of that pain temporarily, you actually have a release of so many powerful hormones that you can ride that out. And so,
Okay.
it's kind of like hope for people that are in pain is that even if it's a temporary release, even if it's for 1 minute, it physiologically changes your state of mind and your physical being so much that it changes that feedback loop. And so you not only start to think and feel differently, but your body is physically showing up differently.
Beautiful, beautiful. I've never heard anyone put it quite that way before, and you are such a gift. I love that you're bringing, because it's not just, oh, feel better, right? It's like your background is this physiology, and this is what you do for a living, and so you're actually
Mhm.
sharing something that I haven't, like I said, heard quite that way before, and that is really, yes, hope for someone who's in pain. Is it's not just, oh, move around and you'll feel better, but actually what you're sharing is,
Yeah.
just if you can just change your focus for a minute, there is something
Mhm.
that happens in your body. It's not just changing your focus, but that actually feeling better and
Mhm.
focusing on something else releases these hormones in your body that then physically changes you, changes the nature of the pain, changes the nature of how it's being sensed. Like, it
Mhm.
actually is healing you. It actually physically feels better. And then you show up differently, and it's a positive feedback loop. It's like an
Yeah.
upward
Yeah.
spiral.
Yeah.
Hmm.
As soon as we can just have the willingness to change that pattern, we always get stuck in these patterns, and whether you want to call it habits or rituals, we all have our thing that we do first thing in the morning and then
Hmm.
before we go to bed at night, which are two of the most powerful times of the day. But when we can change up those patterns, even if it's for 1 minute, as soon as you wake up, to listen to something that empowers you, or to move your body in a different way, to wake up and read something first thing in the morning, or when we go to bed at night, to ask a powerful question, or to read something that inspires you. If we can change those patterns just minute by minute, you start to notice so many different things show up, because as you respond differently to yourself, you respond differently to everybody else around you. And then people start to respond
Yes.
differently back to you.
Exactly. And so another feedback loop. That's kind of really what life is, right? Is a
Yeah.
bunch of feedback. I mean, ultimately,
Yeah.
it's all one anyway. But in this physical world,
Mhm.
in this 3D duality based world, everything is a feedback loop.
Mhm.
And I've never really thought about it that way before either. But the way that you're sharing it, I can really see that. We respond to it, it responds to us, and it's just constantly going back and forth, whether it's body or emotion or connections, relationships, all of it. And it's a
Mhm.
lot of beautiful opportunity moment by moment to be
Mhm.
aware and to shift
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
we will be served better and we can serve better, which is something that you say a lot.
Mhm.
Serving,
Yeah,
showing
I
up.
yeah. Yeah, I really believe that, when we are in pain and when we're sick, the last thing we wanna do is to be kind and nice and compassionate to somebody else. Like, Ethan had the flu, and so he was, throwing up, and, oh, it was horrific, and then I got sick, and I had a day where it was like this day in between, and then Susanna got sick. And I tell you that, because I hadn't totally recovered, because I had 1 day off of, being sick and not having to parent and do business stuff and
Yeah.
all the rest of it, the way I showed up for her was bitter, resentful,
Uh,
annoyed. And the thing is when we are in pain in our own body, when we're not taking good care of ourselves, we treat everybody else around us like shit.
yeah.
And, it's one thing to say, love yourself. But if we just, try and have a bubble bath and, to feel good about ourselves, it's almost like whipped cream on top of a big bowl of shit because,
Ah,
we've got to we've got to practice that from the inside out, and like doing the things that have you feel lit up inside, and not just, putting on some makeup and that's what self-love is, or,
no,
buying another nice outfit and that's what self-love is. Like
no,
self-love is not getting something, it's
no.
being somebody.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much to that. What you're saying is so beautiful just in terms of, well, two things that really stood out for me was one, it brings more compassion for us when we see other people acting badly, like ugliness that comes at us from someone who's, road rage, or someone who's grumpy at a grocery store or whatever. When you're feeling good and you're feeling lit up, you don't behave like that. So it's just, it opens up
Mhm.
a little space for more compassion for others when they're feeling crappy, because that's just showing when they're prickly or they're grumpy or they're miserable. It's like that's when they need more
Mhm.
love, not being grumpy back, if that makes sense. Because when you were in that mood, like, it would have not helped at all if Susanna was like, well, screw you. Like, I mean, compassion would have been what you
Yeah.
needed. More space, more
Yeah. Yeah.
grace,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah,
then I forget
space
the
and
second thing.
grace. Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the space and grace is so powerful. We usually align ourselves with our opposites. And
Mm,
so when our opposites, and whether it's a business partner or your significant other or your kid, they're usually an opposite of what we need, so that it gives us an opportunity to grow. Like Susanna and I think so differently. It's like
yep.
we even talked about a dog walk that we went on, like this loop in our neighborhood, and we never knew that we both went from opposite directions. And
Ah.
I said, this is a perfect analogy of how we are in life is, I really truly believe that we've got to connect with our own pathway. We've got to connect with our own route, even if it means taking space from somebody else in order to come back around and understand where they're coming from or understand their perspective. And so, like, I love being able to run a business with Susanna because like I am all about, taking care of our physical body, whatever we feel is actually, echoed in the body. And like having women step into their true voice and do
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that serve them.
Yeah.
And I love seeing how, Susanna helps people connect with other people. And, this is what I've learned from her is like really how to have that authentic connection with other people. And,
Yes. You're
yeah.
both
And
so
I
good at
feel
that, and
like,
you are so different. That's
mhm.
beautiful.
Well,
When
thank
you'll
you
go
for
ahead and
that.
say what you were going to say, if you remember.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I think sometimes that, we lose that connection with somebody else, whether it's a client or a spouse or your kid, you lose that connection with somebody else when you're not feeling well taken care of within yourself, when you're not feeling safe, secure,
Mm,
healthy, just vibing, just
yeah.
happy, free, playful.
Yeah, and you have to do
Yeah.
that for yourself, right? To show up for others. You can't give from an empty cup, as they say. And I
Mhm.
remembered the other
Mhm.
thing, it was practice. You've mentioned that a few times, and I know that's how you live. And this is coming up a lot too, right? That gap from feeling awful to feeling amazing. It's little steps. It's little steps. It's little steps. It's not a leap, although we can talk about leaping and the
Mhm.
things that you've done. But what I mean right now is just reflecting on what you were talking about of maybe repetition of things that help you
Mhm.
understand and love yourself and honor yourself and get to know
Mhm.
yourself and your authentic truth versus all the things that you're supposed to be, or you know what's expected of you versus, okay, but who am I and what do I want and how do I want to show up in the world. And the more you're honoring that, you're just naturally loving yourself, and then you can show up for
Yeah.
Susanna and for Ethan and for your clients. And you know you can't you can't
Yeah.
you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah, yeah. I love it how physicians call their business a practice,
Ah,
because I think all of our businesses should be a practice. I think we are always in practice
ah,
of what's next. And
Right.
we kind of present ourselves as, I am the authority figure of this, or I am the expert in this. But the thing is we are all just practicing this thing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I find from my own experience is the more that I'm in tune with my body, my emotions, my mindset, is the more I'm kind of fast tracking that practice.
Yeah, and bringing presence to it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys are you're so perfect with that. I know I'll use just you because this is you and I. Again, you're putting into practice the things that you talk about. You're not just paying lip service to it. You literally dive in with everything you've got to whatever insight you're trying to like figure out or understand or deepen your understanding of, and then you dive into that pool and you figure it out and you play with it, and then you bring it forth as part of your practice
Yeah,
to your clients and to your
yeah,
group. You're not just
yeah,
talking. It's the same way I'm able to
yeah,
bring love. It doesn't just happen. I have to choose
yeah,
love again and again and again in the hardest of circumstances. It's not always easy. It's
mhm.
really not.
Yeah,
It's so much easier
yeah,
to not choose love all the time. Like things
yeah,
that show up, like I said, even
mhm.
with a grumpy person or a spouse or a child or somebody who's coming at you in a way that, choosing love is the last thing you want to do.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
funny thing is we go into practice, and whether your practice is your career, your business, we go into practice of the things that, we're on a mission to learn the most about ourselves.
Yes.
I had the most amount of like self-loathing for my body, covering my face when I had acne, and just like I talked about before with roles, and it's like I devote my life to helping other people learn how to love their bodies and love themselves,
Yeah.
because of all the practice I've had to do, from all the injuries I've had to recover from,
Wow.
and from all that freaking heartbreak. And
Hmm.
on the other side is, of not going through that experience, is we get pretty cold and withdrawn, and
Hmm.
and feel, lonely. And I
Yeah.
think when we break through that wall of exploration and we start to practice the things that we're not great at, is what comes through on the other side, is like not only love for ourselves, but like true, authentic, unconditional love for other people,
Yes.
and
Exactly as
especially our.
they are, where they are on their journey, how they're showing up. That, yeah, to me, that looks like compassion. It feels like compassion because you're understanding, you've been there. You can't get here without going through your own fire, right? Over and over and over again, and leaning into your own, like you said, shadows and all of those things. It's the only way that you can help anyone else is to have done that work yourself. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but I do see a lot of people paying lip service to things, and I can tell energetically when someone's done the work and they haven't. I just can, because it shows up as authenticity. It shows up as
Mhm.
vulnerability and truth when someone like you guys, like you can't fake that. If you haven't done your
Mhm.
work, it's obvious, you know?
Yeah,
This isn't
yeah.
all sunshine and rainbows. Like it's tough stuff sometimes, a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the practice is raw and it's
Yeah.
messy, and we've
Yeah.
been taught from our parents and from school that, failure is a bad thing. And the thing is failure and pain is incredible when you treat it like it is a gift and it is a learning opportunity. And when you look for, okay, what's next?
Yes.
And, we all fall down, we all get really messy. But if we can get through that and get to that next point of just getting back up again and just trying again,
Beautiful.
there's
Yeah.
magic on the other side.
Yes, because I think we're
Mhm,
so programmed to actually stay away from our own pain. If it's physical, you can't help it, right? But to try and numb it, to
mhm,
try and escape from it, whether it's gambling or working too hard or being online or whatever it
mhm,
is, but it's actually going
mhm.
into it and feeling it and dealing with it and healing it that opens up the
Yeah,
space for magic, because we
yeah.
definitely are magic.
Yeah, 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 numbing, of course,
Yeah.
like, this is why drinking and, marijuana and even Netflix has become so popular is
Yes.
because, like, we don't wanna feel that pain,
Yeah. Well,
and,
it's tough.
sometimes if we can
Yeah.
just lean in, if we lean in, get a little dirty, a little raw, there's so much more on the other
Ooh,
side of it. And
I love
like I
that.
teach this stuff is
Yeah.
because I love a glass of wine, especially when I'm cooking and, snacking before dinner. Like this stuff is not easy and it's not natural to want to sit through those uncomfortable, moments with your spouse or those annoying times with your kid or like
Yeah.
those tough times through your business. But when we can resist that numbing, and we could just like sit with like all that discomfort and all that pain and anxiety and the stuff that we're dealing with, what shows up on the other side is possibility,
Yes.
possibility for a
That
new
wasn't there
future, a new self.
before. With the existing patterns,
Hmm.
they don't let you show up any differently, which is something Susanna said, which was so beautiful. But actually, I think it's possible that our natural state is to let emotions run through and then out, and it's holding them in, and those resentments build up and all of those pains build up. That's why it's so painful when you finally face something, because it's been building and building and building, and you've been holding it in yourself
Yeah.
possibly since you were little. But if you look at little
Hmm.
kids, if they get into a fight on the playground, they just like they get over it and keep playing. It's the
Yeah.
holding on to it that makes it feel unnatural to look
Yeah.
at it, because it's a deep dark pit. We've been adding energy to it for
Yeah.
so long. And so once
Yeah.
we release all that energy, then we have it for possibility that
Mm.
just literally was not there before,
Yeah.
or we couldn't
Well, those
access it.
emotions. Yeah, I couldn't access it for
Mhm.
sure. And those emotions are so normal for human beings. And
Yeah.
yeah, as a little girl, I was taught to, not be angry. Or
Yeah.
if I was crying, it would be, oh, you're being a little baby. Or,
Yes.
these insults that coincide with different emotions. And I
Ugh.
know men are taught this too, but I can only come from a
Yeah.
woman's
For
perspective.
sure. I
And
mean,
I
yeah.
Mhm. And even in a professional environment, is the more that we repress those emotions rather than expressing them, is the less we have our needs met and the
Yep.
less we get what we really want. I was in the office when I went through this career transition,
Yep.
of working in a clinic and working with my mask on, couldn't being able to breathe. And I was just hating it every day and feeling so claustrophobic in my own
Yes.
mask and clinic. And so I decided to step away and do, virtual work where I could serve and help people, but it would be like I could have my face and my freedom.
Yeah.
And I was standing in this office and I was just like exploding and saying, "This is what I need." And, Susanna stood
Wow.
2 feet on the floor and her hands on her hips. And she said, "I will be your knight in shining armor
Yeah.
and I will be what you need." And it was fascinating because like, of course, we don't need a knight in shining armor, and sometimes we need to protect ourselves. But I think the power in that is I always kept my cards so close to my chest, like I have it all figured out. I know what to do next. And then this past transition, it's been so raw and so real that I've had no choice but to
Wow.
say who I am and how vulnerable I am and what I need. And
Beautiful.
the
Or
shocking
just stay
thing
miserable.
about yeah, and the shocking thing is when we express to people what we need, what comes out on the other side is people stepping into their power.
Yes. It's
Mm.
that this comes up a lot too, is that vulnerability is the one, it's like a little nugget inside and we don't want to share it, but it's the one thing
Mhm.
that gives you more connection than you ever could have had. The vulnerability to
Yeah.
speak your truth is actually what cracks everything open. It
Mhm.
really does. It cracks open the person in front of you
Mhm.
because they feel your heart and
Yeah.
then they step in to support you. Like
Mhm.
it gives them the
Yeah.
permission and the power to be their own full true self too. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, we think that being strong means looking like we're strong. But really, when we
Mm,
see somebody else who is showing up raw and authentic and, kind of not totally having it all figured out, but
yeah.
just stepping into that stepping
Whew.
up and stepping into it, even so, we see that as courage. And what I love is that, in one of Brene Brown's books, she talks about, courage is actually of the heart. And that
Yeah.
fascinated me. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's like real strength is, like coming from the heart.
Yes. Yeah, it takes courage. It
Mhm.
really does. It wouldn't seem like I've always said love is not weakness. It's actually
Mhm.
powerfully strong. It takes
Mhm.
courage to be loving. And as we've talked about,
Mhm.
and this is such a beautiful kind of bookend to the conversation because,
Mhm.
yeah, Brene Brown, she's got a lot of beautiful work on vulnerability. And I swear to God, if every conversation I have, the one thing, or even I have these little love notes that I send out every day. Um, another thing that was just asked of me. And so I'm doing it. And the one thing that I get the most messages on, the most feedback, like that feedback loop,
Mhm.
is those vulnerable moments, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, like we said. And, my daughter, for instance, is like, you're always just, you're pretending to be happy all the time. I'm like, you're obviously not listening to whatever I'm putting out there, which is fine. She's got her own journey, right?
Mhm.
But if she was, she would know
Mhm.
that I'm sharing the pain too. Because if you
Mhm.
don't, and if you see somebody perfect on Instagram, you there's
Mhm.
you can't relate to it. You can't resonate. It just makes you feel
Mhm.
not enough,
Mhm.
right? It's the
Mhm.
vulnerability. Not that we need to dive into horrible
Mhm.
emotions all the time, but sharing the truth like that, it's actually the most beautiful
Mhm.
invitation for people to heal
Mhm.
themselves and show up authentically. It's what touches people's hearts and cracks them open.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. I feel like, from the moment I met you, you really cracked me open. I felt like,
Ah!
you just are present with somebody and you just crack open that shell and because it's such a heart to heart connection.
Mm.
It's really how you show up.
That is the highest compliment you could give. It's really just love showing up. Happens to be through this vessel, but
Yeah.
I just let it flow through. I'm so grateful for you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, how much time do we have? Oh, we're just over an hour. So, perfect, perfect timing, as it always is. Gosh, I mean, there's lots more we could talk about, but I don't want to keep you, and I'd like to keep them to an hour, just for consistency on the podcast. So it's just so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
amazing how fast it goes. It's like, what?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just
This has been
yapped
a
for an
remarkable
hour.
hour.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to share and tell us where people can find you?
What I really want to share is no matter where you're at in your journey, is that there's always that next step. No matter how tiny and small it is, it doesn't have to be a massive step from, pain to I have hope now.
Mm,
It can be a little step. And, I really want to just extend this opportunity to have a chat and really dive a little deeper into what somebody's really dealing with instead of just having a catch-all for everybody fits within this same rehab strategy, or everybody can
mm,
have happiness if they do A, B, and C. Is that
right.
I really believe that there's a customized approach for every single person. I what I love the most is every body is different, and when we really look at it, like everybody's body is so unique and so powerful. And when we choose to, work our mindset and we choose to, like, really challenge those uncomfortable feelings, and when we choose to step forward on this powerful journey, is at the end of that is there is so much light and there's so much
Mm.
power in just being like really who you are.
That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Even though we all have similarities, just like our bodies have physiological similarities, we each are like this beautiful, unique puzzle or little bits of a
Mhm.
kaleidoscope. And you're giving people permission to be exactly as they are, meeting them where they're
Yeah.
at, and also showing them that there's more and there's a better way and you don't have to be in pain and there is more joy for
Mhm.
you and light. What could be better than that? I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
truth right
And
there.
with some
Beautiful.
people, it's a couple of text messages back and forth. With some people, it's like jumping on a call and just having that, face to face, like heartfelt, like, where are you coming from? How can we get the most out of this time together? And for other people, it's, a full program that we,
Yeah.
really help them deal with their pain, and they're pain free and they're feeling great, and actually help them reach their goals and make a bigger impact with the people who they serve. So I feel like it's not, reaching out to me doesn't mean anything. It's just like that connection so that I can serve you in any capacity.
Yeah, beautiful. It's not like I'm going to shove some 10, you know, step thing
Yeah.
because it just doesn't work that way. It's like, okay, what's going
Mhm.
on?
Yeah.
Can I help? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
don't know what that looks like until we connect. And that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful invitation. I love
Yeah.
you so much. I'm so grateful for you.
Aw. I love
Amazing.
to thank you so much for this time with you, and also with all of the people who you serve and your entire audience. I am so blessed to be a part of it because I feel like it's such a powerful network. So, yeah,
Ah,
I am so happy to
gorgeous.
be a part of it.
Yeah. So may
Yeah.
this go where it needs to go and help and invite and
Yeah.
open up people wherever it needs to because now it's out of our hands. Goes from our
Yeah.
hearts out into the world. So thank you again. And I will put in the show notes where people can find you and reach out to you.
Okay.
And I'll put your Facebook group as well. And so now I'm just going to run the credits for a second and then I will come back to you. So thank you, Courtney.
Excellent.
It's been my
Thank
joy,
you.
truly. I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you enjoyed this episode and it helped you open your heart, feel inspired, and know that we are all connected. Please subscribe and share so this work can touch more people. This is how we co create the world we want to live in. Thank you so much again for joining us, and talk to you next time.